You are listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast, a podcast by diehard fans for fans. Mark covers all things Penn State football and the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as anything related to the sports and fitness world. Tune in weekly to listen to a couple of dedicated fans talk about these topics without filters. Thank you for listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast.
All right, everybody. Welcome back into another episode of the Mark Lesko Podcast. Joined by Brett Cable once again to talk Penn State football. Obviously, we got some big news, so we're going to talk about that. Matt from Penn State Jerseys is already joining us. What's up, Matt? Can you hear us, Matt? I think you're muted on your end, Matt. But yeah. No, we still can't hear you, Matt. But we'll get it figured out. Brett, how you doing?
Good. Glad to be back. Got some big news in Penn State country, so it's always good to talk about breaking news. Obviously, if we had a schedule that matched up better, we would have talked about it sooner. But
yeah, which is totally fine. But
yeah,
Brett and I's schedule will match up again here fairly soon. But yeah, man, we're going to talk Jim Knowles being hired, obviously.
Yeah.
We're going to talk some other storylines. First and foremost, I'm not going to go through the comments again, but man, some of you guys are freaking nuts.
It's true.
Like, dude, people just going at us about certain stuff, like we don't know what we're talking about. Notre Dame's better. And as I explained it before, I'll say it one more time. Like, if both Matt, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
guys.
so like Matt, we're just talking about comments that I've been getting, but yeah, like for example, like if Bowling Green beat us or Minnesota beat us, I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, Minnesota's clearly the better team just because they won. Like, that's not true. Even if we beat Ohio State, maybe if we beat Ohio State, it'd be a little different. But Notre Dame fans just saying that we're better clearly and we beat you guys head to head, and it's like, it doesn't mean you're better than us. I mean,
Northern Illinois is better than Notre Dame.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's a circle
so-
jerk argument.
Yeah, so like at the end of the day, man, like to me, we had the most talent. We had the most talented team in the country last year. We probably will next year too. We'll see. We'll have to look at the rosters, but like Notre Dame, okay, here's the thing. You guys want to say you're the better team, okay? Riley Leonard at quarterback, who's better, him or Drew Aller? Drew Aller. Running back, who's better, Jeremiah Love or Nick Singleton and Katron Allen? Well, we got that. Tight end, we're better. O-line, we're probably better. D-line, we're probably better. Linebacker, who do you have at linebacker?
Situational football, though, right?
It's not even close, man. So, it's like, and people, dude, it's always the people. I mean, I had a guy, he said, I had a guy comment, he said, dude, you can't, your beard sucks. You can't grow a beard. He said, you have a double chin. And like talking all this crap. And he's got a picture of him and like what was it? He's got a picture of him like kissing his daughter. I'm like, dude, you guys talk crap on these social media platforms. You got pictures of your kids like on your social media. I'm like, you're a moron. Like, I don't get that. It's always those guys. Brett, you know this. Like, we've talked about it. It's always guys talking the most crap. Then they have a picture of like them and their daughter. It's like, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you talking crap with a picture of your kid on the social media?
Internet's a weird place, Mark.
Oh yeah, but we got a lot of haters on here. Keep it coming, baby. Keep it coming. We're going to put you to bed just like we do everybody else. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. When you start a podcast, you really have to know your crap, because if you don't, someone's going to call that out real quick. Therefore, I don't have anybody on here that doesn't know their crap. Brett, Matt, Anthony Howard, Jared, whoever. And to a greater point, I've said this before too. Like Landon Tangwall, he's a former player. He has a big audience now. Justin King has a big audience.
Yeah.
I'm not a former player. I'm not even in media like Tom Hannafin or T. Frank or any of those guys. All I can do is be myself and know what I'm talking about, be genuine. And that's how I'm going to build this podcast. So I'm not going to start out with 3,000 followers right away like Landon Tangwall did. And all the credit goes to him, but I'm not a former player, man. No one knows who I am.
Yeah.
So all I can do is be myself, and that's how I'm going to build this channel, and it is building. Started with 0 followers, now we're over 500, pushing for 1,000. So, that's just how it works. So
we all start at one. We all start at one. It takes a couple seasons, and listen, I mean, when you're winning, there's going to be more people seeking this content. Like I know on my page, engagement was up big time this year because listen, people want winners. They want to follow winners. And you see the same thing with the NIL, right? Like all those fringe fans who are thinking about supporting, and you make the playoffs, you see Tyler Warren on SportsCenter, right? You see Nick Singleton, you see us, in a, in 3 playoff games, and people want to get involved. And that's where we are. Mark, your point on Notre Dame, listen, I think from a talent standpoint, all those areas, you're right. But listen, we struggled with situational football, right? Like interception at a bad time. Like, I don't think it was a great pass by Aller to Singleton, But
well, here's the thing. Drew Aller did not lose us the game, but he blew it at the end. That's all we were saying on post game. He blew it. Like he made a stupid mistake. That's quarterback 101, man. You don't throw back across the middle like that.
The receivers didn't help him. That's what it is.
No.
He
had no receivers. I mean,
you know what? To be fair, I went back and watched a cut up of that play, and basically Evans was the 4th option, and he did not run that route.
No,
good at all. He was pretty lazy coming out of the break.
Yeah.
And I think it was Landon Tangwell. To your point, I was listening to his analysis, and he showed the full 22 cut up, and I agree with him 100%. Like those receivers do that sometimes, right? Exactly like you said. Like, hey, I'm the 4th option. I'm just clearing this out. And then at the most important time, it's just that situational football, right? Like, are you prepared? You're playing 60 minutes. Every play counts. You take one play off, and he did, no matter who that is, right? The left tackle misses a block. Running back doesn't pick up a blitz coverage. You get to that point in the season when you're playing Notre Dame or whoever in a tight game, one missed assignment in football can blow up the whole thing. And that's what happened. He ran a lazy route.
Yep.
And that's a bad, lazy play at the bad time. It's going to be, it's just going to be compounded.
And like you said, that play to Singleton and the flat that in the goal line set, he throws it to Singleton. It's a little short behind. It hits his hands. That one play, that changes the whole game. We probably win. That's
Notre Dame has to go even more aggressively. They can't stay in they wanted to. I don't think there's any question we have more NFL players, but at the end of the day, you got to execute in those critical situations. And we all this is my one concern for next year, right? Is that, Tyler Warren made a lot of those, hey, everything broke down. We could just throw him the ball. He was the bailout guy, right? And who's going to be the bailout guy next year, right? When those plays break down, we're going to need a lot from both of these transfers.
Yeah.
And we're still going to need one more. And Luke Reynolds will do a good job replacing a lot of the production that Warren put forth. But that to me is the biggest question mark going into the offseason and going into the next portal window is the receiver position.
Yeah.
It's a lot of production.
So exactly. I agree with you, Matt. I just want to say this, like Mike McQuarrie, the same guy that Pat McAfee talks about on his show all the time. I knew Mike McQuarrie. He was one of my coaches at Penn State camp. I really liked him a lot. One of my favorite coaches I've ever had in sports. But here's the thing. He told me personally, you guys remember Graham Zug, Matt? I know you do.
Yeah, number 5.
Brett,
he was a good player.
Brett, you remember Graham Zug, right?
Yeah.
All right. So he told me, as a walk-on, the reason he was so good and the reason he played a lot, which he did, because he was good at route running. He said he was the best route runner on the team. And he played with Justin Brown, Derek Moy, Derek Williams, Deion Butler. The reason he played a lot was because he was good at route running. We don't have that. So and I played receiver too. I played receiver, and what I learned at Penn State football camp from Mike McQuarrie, I took back to my team, and we did the drills that we did in football camp, and that was all footwork and route running. That's all we did, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's all we did. We focused on route running. That's the most important aspect. You can be the fastest guy in the world. You can have the best hands in the world, but if you can't run routes, then you're being lazy.
That's Amari Evans. That's what you just explained.
You're being lazy and you're being an asshole, to be honest with you. I don't mean to curse, but don't be lazy with your routes. And they did that, man. Like, it sucks, but so yeah, obviously it's a concern going into next year. It's been a concern. People criticize Franklin because he's a receiver coach in the NFL. People criticize Franklin because they haven't developed. The receiver coach, I don't think, has had enough time to do that. I mean, last year clearly could have gotten better, but man, our receivers have been bad and it sucks. Now, I don't think, like, to me, it's not an excuse because we have great tight ends and we have great running backs. So we still should have won that game. Now, will we have beaten Ohio State? I don't know, but yeah, it's just,
do we win if Lambert Smith doesn't go and transfer?
Probably.
Who?
Lambert Smith.
I mean, if Lambert Smith's on the team, are we playing in the national championship game?
He had a good year.
Brett said something about having Jahan Dotson. If we had like a Jahan Dotson on the team, we probably
I'm not even going to Jahan Dotson's level, right? I'm just talking about a guy that gets us.
Parker Washington, even.
But Notre Dame fans were like, "What's that have to do with anything?" It's like, we would have had a receiver that ran routes and would have been good. He's on the Eagles, man. He's playing the damn Super Bowl right now.
They had Greathouse. Greathouse put over 100 yards on us. I mean, one was the busted play, but he also did that to Ohio State too. They had that one guy who could take the top off when they needed him, and we didn't have him. The biggest question mark, like you're talking about for next year, we need Tyseer Denmark to step up. He was a true freshman last year. He's very quick, short area quickness. He's a very good route runner for his age. Like, I've seen him run routes. He looks very clean. Can he take the next step? Last year, he was just learning college and, learning how to be a college football player and putting some weight on. So I think he'll make a push for a starting role. I mean, we'll wait and see, but that's going to be my early prediction. I think Tyseer Denmark's going to play next year.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Drew Aller's definitely working with the receivers. That's one thing that they probably did as soon as they got home from the playoff game. But just to answer some questions here from Jason D'Angelo, I thought it said DeRollo for a second. I can't believe Jim left us. Wish him well until November 1st. Yep, that's when we play. Buckeyes outlet reported they don't see players following him. Caleb Downs thanked Coach Jim. He also added that the other coaches have experience too. There was a lot that happened with him clearly, and that's why he left. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Get Hines Ward to coach him. I agree. Yes, with Lambert Smith, he was solid versus my Buckeyes. Here's the thing, man. Hines Ward is with Arizona State. I saw him on TV during the playoff game. Dotson made plays versus us too. Exactly. Yeah, Hines Ward would be a good one. But here's the thing, man. Like, we had so much talent last year, and then there was receivers. Now, when Saquon played and McSorley was the quarterback, the O-line was an issue. It's like, when is this bullshit gonna stop? Like, I'm sick of it.
It's always something. Yeah.
I know. I hate, because I'm not an excuses guy, man, especially when it comes to Penn State, the Steelers. We're too good to make excuses. So when is this shit gonna like be ironed out?
You know how hard it is to develop a complete team in college football with how long those guys are there for, how many years it takes for even 4 or 5-star offensive linemen to get on the field, like 2 years in the weight program, right? It's tough, man, to line it up. And that's why, like, losing a month ago the way they did was a big kick in the groin, because you don't get so many positions to line up correctly, right? You're always going to have a flaw at one level of the team. It's nearly impossible in college football to have it at receiver. Like, we were just, hey, listen, we had the guy, right? Like, if Lambert Smith stays and Fleming stays at Ohio State, we're playing in the national championship game. Like, it was right there. We just needed, again, some modest upgrade at receiver to change the projection of the team. And, you know, considering how far we have been in the NIL front behind financially, they got every last.
So you think we're behind still?
No, I think this reminds me a lot, guys.
You said before we're not, and I agree in many ways.
I don't think
we're behind for Penn State.
I don't think we are now, because I think momentum means so much in college football. And I point to the Clemson example, right? So, like, right before the year they made it to the college football playoffs, there was this term called Clemsoning, right? And you had Charlie Whitehurst, and you had Taj Boyd, and you had all those Clemson quarterbacks and those Clemson teams that would lose to Florida State, would get upset by NC State. As soon as they made the playoffs with Deshaun Watson and they hit that next level, and then they won the national championship, right? Now you're starting to land a guy called Trevor Lawrence. Right. And who would have thought 3 years ago, before Trevor Lawrence committed to Clemson, that a player like Trevor Lawrence would commit to a team that just Clemson's each year? So I think Penn State, if you look at the momentum with the stadium, the $3 million they paid to Jim Knowles, the amount of guys they retained, probably some through the additional NIL funding, the amount of high-level boosters they have engaged. I mean, listen, I grew up, I'll give you an example. Like, enthusiasm is at an all-time high. I live over in Jersey. I grew up here my whole life. I lived in Hawaii for a number of years, came back. I never saw as many Penn State bumper stickers this fall on my, like, just driving around New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. Like, I'm driving out to the games, and on Route 80, they have a Penn State football billboard that I've ever seen. Like, enthusiasm's real. And when they say, like, hey, Penn State is like kind of this pseudo sleeping giant, it's not really it's not like a pipe dream. They have the largest alumni base in the world. There's 110,000 fans there, right? And it's coming together, and it's not going to stop, because people want winners, right? Soon as you win, people will start buying tickets. They'll buy parking passes. They'll show up at bowl games. It doesn't stop. And they have probably the most momentum of any team in college football when you look at the totality of the program than anyone else going into next year. And I'm telling you right now, you mark my words, they are going to land a minimum. And I can tell you very well, with very good confidence, they're going to land a minimum of 2 all-conference caliber players in the transfer portal in the spring, at a minimum. This roster is going to be even better. The offseason is not over. Like, that Jim Knowles signing is just a preview of what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Not be surprised if they pull in 3 first or second team all conference level players this spring transfer portal window. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Jason said, play Caden Saunders. He's an elite receiver from Ohio.
He's not.
If Kalen is, I agree. If Caden is healthy, he should get more opportunities. He was wide receiver 3, also scored on us. okay, so here's the thing,
He got
man.
a garbage
Like,
touchdown. He got a
I don't
garbage.
think Caden was a 4-star receiver, but he's definitely not elite. He could be if he wants to, but here's the
If he was
thing, man.
healthy,
Like,
we would know more, and he could have gotten reps last year. But like that backtracked him being injured, so like now we don't know what we're gonna see with him. So wait and see. He could be good, but
like Mike Krestovich, who has his own podcast we had on here. He actually had Bo Nickel on his podcast, Straight from the Krez, right after he was on Joe Rogan, golfing with Trump and stuff. He said that if you have Liam Clifford on the field who wouldn't even see the field at Ohio State, then you got a problem, which I agree with. And, you know, you Penn State fans, like, Clifford is just, that name haunts me. That'd be like having Anthony Morelli's brother play receiver. It's like, we need to get this cursed name off the roster. No offense to Liam Clifford, but Clifford is just like Sean. I mean, he just gave me nightmares, but we need to be better at receiver for sure. And here's the thing, guys are coming back. Okay. They have their sights set on a title. Abdul Carter left because he's so good. Denai's the same year. Singleton's the same year. Catron's the same year. Drew's the same year. Caden Saunders is the same year. They could have all left if they wanted to, honestly, and they didn't. So they got that. The NIL is clearly making moves because they just hired Jim Knowles. He's the highest paid coordinator in college football. And he makes like $1 million less than NFL coordinators. So they're making moves. They got their sights. The players have their sights set. NIL seems to be working. They just made a huge hire. They're going to add to the roster, like Matt said. And here's the thing, man. Like I've said it before, say it again. James Franklin is a player's coach. He's awesome in that sense. He is a player's coach. I don't think he gets enough credit for his football IQ, which he is pretty damn high. And Franklin carries himself well. I mean, I don't think any of you can name a time where the way he conducts himself, the way he walks, the way he walks with his chest out, man, like he carries himself very well. I think he's a good representation of a Penn State football coach. He's a player's coach. We got the players back. We got a good roster coming back. We're going to get more people. We got that kid from freaking Texas A&M. We got the receivers.
But I don't know with the receivers, right? So, like, I would feel a lot better if Harrison Wallace came back.
yeah,
I feel we're set. But I feel like we're in the same position we were the past 2 years. Okay guys, but you still need that third because there's still unknowns, right? You still got a kid from Troy, and we got a kid from Kent State right a couple years ago. He wasn't able to make the transition. Cephas. You got a good kid from USC, but I mean, look at his stats, man. Like, and their quarterback wasn't bad at all, right? Like their quarterback wasn't that bad, but Hudson didn't put up. Like, I'm not like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not overly excited. I don't know how much better we got, or did we just maintain addition by subtraction?
Yeah, like we were talented last year. We're talented again. You know, that's the whole thing about that.
Well, the thing with Hudson too was that Miller Moss started the year pretty good, but then they made the transition and switched quarterbacks. Also, they had a loaded receiver room. If Hudson was already on our team and he put up 300 some yards, then I wouldn't be impressed at all. But he was in the mix with like 6 different receivers over there, like a solid, like we never had a solid receiving corps. So him as a starter and his stats as a contested catch ratio, he goes up and gets the ball, which none of our receivers did ever last year. They waited for it to come to them, or they didn't catch it. They didn't go up and grab it. So, yeah, I still agree that we need to see more, but you're basically getting a Harrison Wallace. So, in a way, like he's similar to a Harrison Wallace, probably not as fast, but more of a contested catch guy, same size, physical receiver off the line. They're going to get at least one more receiver in the spring. They have to.
They're going to get 2. I'm telling you right now, they are going to be minimum of 2 that are rolling in, because not only is that room with a lot of question marks, Still going back to tight ends, you had 100 catches by Tyler Warren. How are you getting to 100 catches just to get back to what you were last year, which wasn't good enough to win the national championship? The greatest tight end in the history of Penn State. So Luke Reynolds maybe give you 40, 45. Dinkins will give you 20, 25. You're still going to need 40, 50 catches somewhere.
Yeah.
Or that's going to be the downfall, right, of this team. This team's season is going to make or break when that transfer portal window opens in the spring. Can they land one, if not two, all conference type receivers? And if they can't, they're going to have to win in a way that we haven't seen teams win national championships. Not that they couldn't, but we're going to have to see them win in a way that we just haven't seen in a long period of time, since probably Ohio State beat Miami, right? Like that was probably the last team.
Yeah.
And they still have Michael Jenkins on the outside, who is very timely, right, with some of his big plays, but they didn't they weren't a very pass happy team. They didn't feel good about being down by 7 points.
Yeah.
That's probably the last team to do it that way.
So
and the good news about the receiver thing, real quick though, is like we've talked about before, 2025 guys and 2026 guys, they're changing the room of the receivers, like the type of receivers they're getting. They're getting bigger guys. They're getting more physical bodies. They're getting very quick guys too.
We don't need them in 26, bro. We need them now.
Oh, no, we need them now. We need. Yep.
Yeah. Like to me, that could switch, could die.
Yep. Guilford from Indiana, he looks really good, and then Jasir Rogers from Delaware, he looks really good. So like those are going to be difference makers once they come in.
Because Penn State soon, man, it always works out that way somehow. We didn't have tight ends. Well, we've always had tight ends, but we didn't have like elite tight ends like we have now. We have, and the one kid just bumped into a 5-star spot. Eventually, we're probably going to get like a Jeremiah Smith type guy at Penn State, and then he's going to be like a first-round pick. But here's the thing, just a general point. Franklin is a strong recruiter, and I've been talking to a lot of people. I've actually been taking notes and stuff. Franklin's a strong recruiter, even without all the money that some other programs do. But he has the most talented team. Like the guy doesn't have as much money as other schools, but he still has the most talented team in the country. And that's a hill I'm gonna die on, which is crazy because that just says a lot about his recruiting ability. Ohio State is talented, but they're not as talented as us. But they had more money. But they were a better team due to like their coaching. If we beat Ohio State, like I still think they're the better team overall, but we're more talented. We're the most talented team in the country. I mean, they got us at like receiver, maybe linebacker. I don't think they had us in the secondary. And for those of you who actually go to games, and I was at the UCLA game this year, our defensive backs are freaking unreal, man. Like they're big. They're fast. They got muscle on them. They can hit. They can tackle. I mean, our defensive backs are unreal. Like we're getting AJ Harris back.
Our best one all year. Like I mean, KJ
exactly. KJ Winston was out. Jalen Reed should have stayed. Jalen Kimber should have stayed. But anyway, AJ Harris is back. Sakee Wheatley is back. I mean, King Mack is back. It's crazy.
I mean, King Mack, okay, like. Depth. I mean, he wasn't seeing the field much at Alabama. They were in disarray there. Elliott Washington, I like a lot.
Yeah.
But again, it's these one or two extra players that they've been away. So like Jaden Kimber, like to me, Mark, like Ohio State is more talented at those critical positions, right? Free safety, Caleb Downs. And we're missing, obviously, KJ Winston all year. Number one receiver, right? Jeremiah Smith just could play breaks down. He's just getting open. He's just like an eraser, right? The defensive ends, with Sawyer and JT, they're just more experienced, than our defensive ends. Right. And then quarterback Will Howard, did a better job this year protecting the ball and performed better in the playoffs, right? So your quarterback, your safety, your number one receiver, your defensive end, and then even number one corner. I mean, Denzel Burke.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, if you put Will Howard on Penn State's roster, he's not doing much with it. He's not. He's throwing it to Tyler Warren too.
He didn't turn the
You know
ball
what
over.
I mean? It's going to be the same thing. Huh?
Right? I think he was their biggest liability. I think if we made the national championship game, he was a guy that we would have to have probably have blitzed heavy and try to force his hand, but he didn't turn the ball over.
No,
right.
He had Jeremiah Smith, like you were saying.
Yeah.
We don't. Yeah, I mean,
but he didn't even do. But Jeremiah Smith didn't even do much for Texas, right? I mean, Texas basically doubled him up, and up until really, I mean, give Notre Dame credit. I mean, up until that last bomb, he wasn't unstoppable.
No,
right.
No,
he wasn't like mossing anyone, and even versus us, he didn't do much versus us.
No.
I mean, he had one crossing pattern on the third down, and that was pretty much it. I'm not taking anything away from him, but
he's just a freak athlete. Like that doesn't, But for example, like Caleb Downs, free safety. I played free safety. You're the last resort. The reason you're free is because you're in the back. Strong safety is a little different. You move around. I believe John Lynch, for example, was a strong safety. He was a free safety, but John Lynch, for those of you who know who I'm talking about, he was a free safety, but he moved like a strong safety. Like Caleb Downs does both. Zakee Wheatley does both. Kevin Winston does both.
They played Caleb Downs all over the field. Yeah, they played him everywhere. They played him 8 yards off the ball.
But Zakee Wheatley's a freak, man. He's going to be, if not AJ Harris, he's going to be our best guy next year.
He had a very good year.
Just overall points, like you make about Jeremiah Smith, and in big games this year, like in the playoff, he wasn't really there. But he's so good, you have to shut him down. But like the fact that these players are coming back, James Franklin is a player's coach. They just hired Jim Knowles. Now, for example, like the Bengals, they made the Super Bowl. The next year, I believe they did it. They almost made the Super Bowl. They lost with a terrible call in the AFC title game to the Chiefs, of course. And then you got the fact that we just made the semifinal. We need to stay healthy, but our chances, man, of going to a national title next year and winning it are very high because we were so close this year. That's usually a good representation. Good teams usually repeat that. So like the Steelers in 2004, Big Ben went 15-1. He started a game in like week 3 and didn't lose until the AFC title game. I mean, that's the best rookie. He had the best rookie season of all time. I bring that up because in 2004, they lost to the Patriots at home to go to the Super Bowl. The next year, they won the Super Bowl. Now, the last time the Penn State lost in a heartbreaker with John Schaefer as the quarterback was in 85. And then in 86, they won the national title. They lost to Boz in 86. And then in 87, they won the national title. So I believe, if I'm thinking of it right, they went to 2 straight national titles. They lost one and then they won one. So we're kind of in the same position right now. And the whole thing with NIL and everything, like people keep talking about how shitty NIL is, which it kind of is. It's a freaking circus, but you navigate that by having a player's coach, one, which Franklin is, and also being a developer, which Franklin is as well. His resume speaks for itself. So that's how you navigate NIL. So the NIL thing and the portal and all that, we have the perfect coach for that. That's how you navigate the portal and NIL, all this money and all this BS. Degrees don't mean anything anymore to a lot of these players, unfortunately. They do to the coaches, and they enforce that, but they're just trying to get the bag. Franklin is the guy for that. That's how you navigate all this. So why the receiver room doesn't get ironed out, I don't get it at all. What's the answer to this whole thing? Like, why is receiver such an issue?
I mean, I'll take issue to the one thing. Like, the biggest threat we have next year is the 16-game season. And what happens with 16 games is injuries. We got very lucky, guys, this year with injuries, all things considered, right? Like we lost KJ Winston, which hurt. We lost Anthony Donka. Luckily, Donka was able to be replaced, and we were fortunate we really had 3 starting safeties. We may not have the same depth next year, and 16 games is a lot of games to play. And that's my biggest concern going into next year outside the receiver room. How do we navigate the health of a team over 16 games? That's a lot.
It's basically the NFL now, man. Like you used to play maybe 13 games. Then it was 15. Now it's 16, 13, 15, 16. Like that's an NFL season, man. And to me, college is harder because you have to go to class. You have to, do projects, do presentations. Penn State campus is uphill both ways. It's like 10 miles long. College is hard, man.
That's my biggest concern.
So again, we got to stay healthy, man. Like we got to stay healthy, but it's like, and here's the thing too, man. If I bring up the fact about defensive backs, like Julian Peterson. Like if you're a defensive back recruit, man, especially after hiring Jim Knowles, and you don't come to Penn State, like you're freaking crazy. Our defensive backs this year, that's some of the best I've seen ever. And that goes back to like the 08 season, 05 season when we had Anthony Scarrato and Samitis and Mark Rubin and Justin King and all those guys, AJ Wallace, Knowledge Timmons, all those guys, Lydell Sargent. Those guys were big, fast. They could tackle. Kirk Herbstreit would call us a slow Big Ten team because he's a moron. But they were always. That's one of the best defensive back rooms I've ever seen. So after Jim Knowles, man, and he's got some vengeance. Like he was wearing an Ohio State Sucks hat. He's got some vengeance.
I don't know if that was. I don't know if that was real or not. I saw it.
I don't know, man. I thought it was, but maybe not. But it doesn't matter. Like it I put it as a thumbnail because Ohio State sucks. But and here's another thing too, Matt. Like I don't feel like the real best team won this year. There should be no buys in the bracket. They need to reseed it every week. No buy team won, dude. Oregon, they played an Oregon team who came off a bye. Like Oregon was the best team. They should have been the national title playing whoever. But I don't feel that Ohio State was the best team. Like I didn't feel like the best team won.
I don't know, man. Like, listen, at the end of the day, they had the toughest path, right? They probably played. They played at least 4 very talented teams, right? Tennessee at least was a talented team in the first round. Oregon, Big Ten champ, and they didn't just beat Oregon, like they embarrassed Oregon, right? Tennessee, they embarrassed Tennessee. Texas, that was Sark being Sark. And then they were fortunate that they played Notre Dame and not us in the championship game. Not to say we would have won, but we're really the only team in college football over the past 5 years outside of Alabama who's beaten Ohio State in a number of big games. But we're the only team really, if you look at the past 8 years, no one has played Ohio State tougher than us consistently.
Yeah.
And so
we've lost by like a combined 20 points in like the past 10 years.
I mean, they didn't listen. They were happy Notre Dame won, right? They didn't want to mess with us. Not that they felt they couldn't probably still beat us, right? But I would be rooting for Notre Dame as well. I mean, Notre Dame really never had a chance in that game after the second quarter, as we really expected.
Notre Dame is always going to be Notre Dame. Notre Dame they're prima donnas. They've always been that way. They won the national title in '88. They've won one more recently than us in '86. But dude, like it's you gotta be realistic, and like Notre Dame fans just aren't. But like they have a good coach. I said before that they need to put more money.
Do they have a good coach? Like
I think they do. Yeah.
Do you think you don't want to give him a couple more years and see how things play out?
So far, he's done a good job. I can agree with that. I mean, yeah.
He's done a good job. I just think we're really quick to say, okay, this guy's like a really good coach.
That's pretty quick. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'll say here, though, about
I think he's got a lot of potential.
Penn State in 2025, I can definitely agree we're going to be more talented than Ohio State. They're losing a lot. If we lose to Ohio State next year, I'll be more heartbroken than ever, just because, I mean, we're going to their house. They're going to have a new QB starting, 5-star, but still a new QB. 8 players on their defense are leaving because they ran out of eligibility or they're going to the NFL. They'll still have good receivers, obviously, but they're losing both their running backs, right? So,
well, here's the thing, man. Like 2005, okay, we started out against South Florida, barely beat them. I think we won like 21-15 or something. And then 2008, they came out and beat the living piss out of Coastal Carolina. They beat them 69-10, I think. You knew that they were elite. You knew that that was an elite team, that they were going to compete that year for a national title. You knew that right away. All right, 99, they beat the living piss out of Arizona at home. Even 97. Like, you know when you have an elite team. This year we didn't have that. I unfortunately kind of knew that against West Virginia. I didn't really want to admit it. But we didn't have an elite team next year. So if we come out against Nevada and beat the living crap out of them, and then we beat Oregon or Ohio State, like, we know we're in good shape. We got a good chance against Oregon. Dylan Gabriel's not coming back, I don't think. So, you know, we're going to learn a lot. Now, if we lose to Ohio State in the regular season, it's going to suck, but I don't think that means we're not going to win the national title. It's like the Steelers and Patriots, man. We could never beat the Patriots. In the 2 Super Bowls we won in 2005 and 2008, we didn't play the Patriots in the playoffs. They got beat by another team who we went on to beat. Unfortunately, like, I think that, in 2008, the Jets beat the Patriots and the Colts. We played the Jets. We beat them. 2005, the Broncos beat the Patriots. We went on to play the Broncos and beat them. So it's kind of like a Patriots type of thing with the Steelers where we can't beat Ohio State, man. Now, I think next year we got a good shot. Jim Knowles is a huge key to this team now. I think he's like having Urban Meyer. Like, Urban Meyer, like, that guy's invincible to me. Like, I would never bet against him. He's kind of like that. He gives us that little edge that we need to beat these good teams. So,
well, Kotelnicki in year 2 is very important to have a good coordinator come back for a second year with Drew and the boys. If Kotelnicki was leaving, it would mess everything up. So him coming back for year 2 in a system would be good.
How far are we going to dip into the bag of tricks though this year without Tyler Warren? If they don't deliver in the portal for another receiver,
well,
they might.
We got so many good tight ends. Like,
he might replicate it with Luke Reynolds. Man, Luke Reynolds is athletic.
Luke Reynolds is a freak. We got Khalil Dinkins coming back. I think Khalil Dinkins is coming back, right?
Khalil Dinkins is a very good blocker.
We got Andrew Rappleyea. We got all these guys coming in. Rappleyea is probably going to get time next year. I can't keep track of all the great tight ends we have, but we got
100 catches. That's still 100 catches.
No, yeah, you can't. But if you can get more out of the receivers this year, we'll just have to wait and see if we can get. That's going to be their goal. Can we get more out of the receivers so we don't have to go in one spot in the passing game? They're going to try to. Yeah, this is the thing. I believe I agree with Landon Tangwell. He was saying, if you think about it, early in the season, other than West Virginia, Penn State wasn't really. They were game planning the whole season around Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and Tyler Warren. So if you switch the game plan up a little bit, which now you're going to have to because you don't have Tyler Warren, like you were saying, Kotelnicki is going to have to scheme it up differently a little bit, and I think that's going to open things up. It's going to have to work. He's going to have to make it work.
You can't and will not replace Tyler Warren, but I think we're okay at tight end for sure. Like, again, like, I can't keep track of all the tight ends we have. We have so many good ones. We're the best tight end room in the country, but
Andrew Olaf, he's a 5-star now. He's a true freshman. He's already with the team. Yeah,
and speaking of the development, like, Warren was a 3-star guy. Like, we barely even heard of the guy before this year he just totally broke out, which I don't think anybody saw coming. We knew he was good, but I mean, Bretton Strange should have done that last year too, and he didn't. Even freaking Pat Fryermuth, he never had a season like Tyler Warren did, and he was damn near a first round pick. So the Steelers got him in the second round, I believe. But before we get into Knowles, totally, we have Drew Aller, and at any level, high school, college, NFL, when your starter goes down, like we saw it with Tua, we saw it with Deshaun Watson, like when your starter goes down, man, your chances of winning go way down. So the QB, I'd say, is the most important position. And then we haven't had a QB like Aller really ever. Maybe you could throw Hackenberg in there, but he came at a bad time. But they seem not to develop these quarterbacks, and it's a weak spot at Penn State, and they need to make the most out of Aller. Like Sean Clifford, man, he was a highly touted recruit, and he was Anthony Morelli-esque. Here's another thing. Why don't we develop these? Like, what's up with Drew Aller, man? The kid doesn't have confidence. Like, and I feel bad for him because after he threw that interception, I showed him on the bench. He's like, why do I always make this mistake?
Well, that was different. That was to go to a natty. He has confidence. I mean, he'll stiff arm a guy and talk his shit to him, and like.
Well, yeah, I don't mean it like that. I just mean like the nuts and guts. I said it before, the nuts and guts. Like, Matt, do you know what I mean by nuts and guts?
Yeah, and I know
Drew Aller have that.
I mean, listen, Aller, when you look at that game versus Notre Dame, he got 2 interceptions called back. He missed Singleton in the flat, and obviously, even though the receiver did not run the route properly, and the coaches, when they do the all-22 cut up, they would blame it on Evans and not him, it still goes on the quarterback because he threw the ball right, wrong, or indiffer. So, listen, to the conscientious observer watching that game, right? And a lot of fans don't turn on to the playoffs. They'll say, hey, listen, that was his worst game of the year. Yeah. And like Notre Dame's a good defense, but listen, he expects more from himself, and he's going to have to put a lot more on himself next year. Mm-hmm. To do it. And I would push back a little bit on Clifford. I mean, Clifford was a 4-star quarterback. He hurt his shoulder late in his high school career. He exceeded what you would probably get out of most 4-star quarterbacks. He's still collecting a paycheck in the NFL. McSorley's collecting a paycheck in the NFL. Michael Robinson collected a paycheck in the NFL. Darrell Clark. They did a good job developing. Even looking at Matt McGloin, he was like a negative star, right?
I mean under Franklin. I don't mean his.
Yeah, I mean, listen, under Franklin. So let's see. I mean, Hackenberg was square peg round hole. Wasn't really his, right? They developed McSorley. He's in the NFL. After McSorley, Clifford, he's in the NFL, and now Aller, he's going to go in the NFL. So, how many teams have past 3 starting quarterbacks gone to the NFL, right? They're not CJ Stroud, but that's not a bad run to have your last 3 quarterbacks. Even Will Levis, right? Will Levis, he's in the NFL. Those are 4 quarterbacks who you recruited, came through your program, who have started games, have all played in the NFL. So none are Kerry Collins, but enough to compete. Maybe not win, but compete for a national championship.
I mean, here's the thing about Kerry Collins too. Like, I don't think he was a very highly touted recruit. And Joe certainly developed him. He's probably the best quarterback we've ever had. But I don't think that we truly like Aller has improved. Franklin has progressed. I'll say progressed, not improved. Aller's progressed. James Franklin has progressed. But it just seems like Aller, man, he just like I said before, when he drops back, like Anthony Morelli dropped back, you're like, oh God, what's going to happen? McQuarrie dropped back. You're like, oh God. I mean, he had some bad passes, McQuarrie, like they weren't even close. When Aller drops back, man, I'm like, oh shit, like what's going to happen?
Morelli Morelli played with a certain style of wide receiver, right? You had Derek Williams, you had Deion Butler, and you had Jordan Norwood, right? You didn't have a guy who necessarily went up and got the ball and erased necessarily a lot of mistakes. Plus, Morelli was a lot less mobile than Aller was. And
he was the number one QB in his class too, from Pittsburgh, you know.
Yeah, no, he was very highly touted out of Penn Hills. Remember, people, I mean, he committed to Pittsburgh actually originally, then decommitted, and then came over. And again, I give Morelli credit because, I mean, listen, he committed to us after we were 4-7, right? So 3-8 and then 4-7. So I give him some credit. He didn't develop. I'm sure that bothers him. And there's no question that those were very talented teams, and he didn't hold up his end of the bargain. And I'm sure he still lives with that till this day. And yeah, I mean, listen, developing these quarterbacks are hard. I mean, listen, even Ohio State has had 5-star guys that have transferred out in a variety of different positions. It's tough, man. It's developing a quarterback's tough. I mean, if you look at all the 5-star and the past 10 years, and if you pull them up on Rivals, you may not even know half of them. So I don't think it's necessarily just a Penn State thing, but
Dick Buck said, y'all can't win no big game.
That's not even a real sentence, Dick Buck, but thank you for commenting. That's not a legit sentence, but
Dick Buck. Is he an Ohio State fan?
Well, yeah, he's probably like Buck Nuts, you know. Dick Buck. It's not a complete
I mean, you know, I don't know if he's saying
that truly wins a big game each year.
I don't know if he means it in like an insulting way. If he does, like, Dick, you're a dick. But I mean, it's true, man. Like, we don't win big games. So
no, but he just didn't. He couldn't even say it like with like true English lettering. Like it wasn't.
But who wins big games? Who wins big games?
If you speak to us in English, we will respond.
Ohio State, Indiana. But if you ask a lot of Ohio State fans up until 2 weeks ago, are you winning big games? They said no. We're 0-4 versus Michigan.
Matt,
and we've lost in the playoffs every single year since the Ezekiel Elliott year when they shouldn't have even made the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Matt, is Penn State the Mecca? Penn State, is that the Mecca?
The Mecca of what?
College football.
No, they're
Who's
not.
The Mecca?
You got to define Mecca. What's like anything? Like people throw out all these terminologies. How do you define it?
I've said Penn State is the Mecca. I've said it several times. Brett, do you think Penn State's the Mecca?
It's such a broad statement. That I agree with
all
Matt.
Right.
Like it's not like for 10 years Alabama was the Mecca. For a whole decade. Historically,
Penn State, 409 wins under one coach, Joe Paterno, built the second largest stadium in the world. We're up there with all-time wins, the atmosphere, all of that. I think that makes us the Mecca.
Well, I mean, I mean, listen, I love Penn State more than anyone. I would push back and say, like, listen, I mean, let's just
Alabama's not the Mecca, man. Not overall. What did they do in the 80s and 90s?
I said for a decade they were the Mecca.
Yeah, but look at Alabama.
I know.
Alabama beat us in a national championship game in the 80s, that goal line stand, right? They won a lot under Bear Bryant. I mean, we had one bronze statue of a coach outside the stadium. I don't know if you've ever been down to Bryant Denny, but I've been down there. They have multiple bronze statues of multiple coaches who won national championships. So that's just like
the 90s, we were Alabama. We didn't win national titles. We were number one every single preseason.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to me, Alabama, over a longer period of time, looking at a multitude of factors, national championships, Heisman Trophy winners, Hall of Fame coaches, their fan support's great, and they're very nice fans. I went down there for a game when we played in
Alabama.
They're very very nice fans. I got invited
very nice people.
Tailgates. Very good conversation. Don't you come down for the game? We're nice, nice to have you. LSU fans also very nice as
Auburn.
well.
Auburn, because they're from Alabama. I met some of them. They were nice.
Yeah, they're cool. But no, I mean, listen, Penn State is. I would love for them to be the Mecca, but if I'm being honest, like other teams have won more, put more Heisman trophies, and won more conference championships, and have done it for a longer period of time. I can't say we're the the Mecca. We're up there. And
But
that's all
all
I'm
right.
looking for as a fan.
By the way, can you guys hold on a second?
I got to dip out here in a few, guys.
All right. Can you guys hear this? Can you guys hear that?
I can hear you.
Did you play anything yet? I don't hear anything.
Hold on. But Matt, continue your point. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I there is a lot of, like, there's a lot of wonderful things about Penn State's program, but I mean, Mecca is just like, that's just a different level. I mean, if you want to put them on, you want to make the case for like a Mount Rushmore, top 4 or 5 programs of all time. If you're talking about success, fan support, enthusiasm, stadium, you're definitely in the top 10. You're definitely in the top 10. I'd say.
All right, but what were you saying before that?
Listen, this season is coming down to a 15-day or 30-day window in April, right? When that transfer portal opens. Like, after the bowl game last year versus Ole Miss, my whole point was like, hey, listen, unless they bring in 2 all-conference caliber corners, we're losing our top 3 corners to the NFL draft. We're just not going to be able to compete for a national championship with no experienced corner. It's just too important a position. Now, we saved our season, and I'll say we saved our season in that portal window getting Harrison Kimber, because without Harrison Kimber, we would have had no experience, and the whole structure of the defense just wouldn't have been what it was. We probably would have lost 3 games.
Harris was a lockdown corner as a sophomore. That's scary. He's going to be really good next year if he stays healthy.
Yeah. So, and it's going to be the same thing at receiver this year, guys. And we're probably also going to need 1 corner, right? So, like, I'm not concerned about them making the playoffs. I'm not concerned about them potentially getting a bye. I'm concerned about that transfer portal window and them hitting it from everything I've heard as hard as they're going to. And they're going, I'm telling you right now, there is a distinct plan for that window.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to have to wait till the April to see what happens with the roster. They know the few critical positions that they need to compete for a national championship. And that's another corner and at least 1 or 2 wide receivers. And when that portal window closes, we'll either be, hey, we're still number 1, or we're going to eventually say shit. Right? Like, we needed 1 extra play to get over the top from someone on the outside, and we're going to know whether to get that or not. I mean, that's it. I mean, our season comes down to that window because we're 1 to 2, I think, players away for solidifying ourselves and accounting for the injuries, because we're going to get injuries this year. We got real lucky with our health last year.
The good thing is the depth that we have at corner, though, like with Davian Collins and Zion Tracy, they played really well. Like, they made a big jump, and they're smaller. They're like 5'11", not super lengthy, but Zion Tracy and Davian Collins, when they were in there, they played pretty good, man. They left up a couple plays, but you can see the talent, and it's exciting to see the jump.
Yeah, and Elliott Washington too. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. The depth's there. I wouldn't be as concerned if they got another corner, but they need 2 receivers. 2. And I'm not talking about 1. They need 2 receivers. And I think they'll be there. Because I mean, thinking if you are, let's say, a top 5 spring portal receiver, biases aside, name me 3 other teams you'd want to join to get you in the league. You're going to, like, Penn State is a top 5 team with a first rounder at quarterback and 2 NFL running backs. It is prime for an all-conference MAC player or a second team Pac-12 receiver.
G5, something like that.
Yeah, to get themselves in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Yeah.
This is a really attractive destination if you're in that position to say, how do I raise my draft stock?
And a senior quarterback. Yeah.
And a senior quarterback. Exactly.
For sure.
It's probably the most attractive landing spot if you are a portal receiver.
Brandon said, no one is following Jim Knowles. He never recruited, LOL. And Penn State problem has never been defense. What makes y'all think he is going to change James Franklin's offense? Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, that's one of the dumbest comments I've ever seen.
This hire is not about defense. It's not about Jim Knowles. This hire is about two things.
It's a statement.
You got it. $3.2 million.
Yep.
And we are not walking around anymore. We are going to compete with Ohio State in more ways that we are now. We may not beat them, but when we have our shot, like we feel we do this year, to your point, right, about all the guys they're losing, we're going to take it. You can't take it every year, right? Just like the NFL, you can't spend past the cap every year because eventually it's going to come to bite you if you keep kicking those cap hits down the road. And Penn State's
coming. The cap's coming, like at the end of the year. Yeah.
I mean, this is just a preview. Like, they didn't spend $3.2 million on Jim Knowles. And remember, like, the reaction from myself and most Penn State fans when Tom Allen left was like, okay. Right. Like, no one was like, oh my gosh. This is a statement and this is a preview. It's not going to stop at the portal window. That's what I'm telling everyone. Like, read the tea leaves. They didn't just spend $3.2 million on Jim Knowles to do nothing in the spring portal. Like, shit's going down in the spring portal. Like, that is going to be an exciting time for Penn State fans. I'm just telling everyone right now, get ready and get excited because that spring portal window is going to be raising the expectations for next year.
Yeah, Brandon.
Hey, Brett, go ahead and give your thoughts real quick before you hop off on Jim Knowles.
Yeah, so hiring Jim Knowles is a statement. He just won a natty with Ohio State, right? It took a couple years for really the first year with Ohio State, he fixed their defense because Ohio State's defense 3 years ago was not good. It was very bad. He fixed it year one. It got better in year two and even better in year three. You can say it's because of the talent, sure, but the way he schemed it up is very similar to a Manny Diaz. That's what we're getting. We're really getting an experienced coach similar to a Manny Diaz for the head coach of the defense. And I'm not saying people from Ohio State are going to follow in the spring portal window. Maybe one will. I'm saying players will be attracted to, holy crap, Penn State's not messing around. They just hired Jim Knowles. He just won a natty. I want to go play for Penn State now. That's what the hire means.
Now, I don't know if Brandon meant because I said if you're a defensive back, you should come here with Jim Knowles. I never said players were going to follow him from Ohio State. Like, Caleb Downs is coming to Penn State now. Like, we're gonna have a $10 million safety at Penn State. And
Zakee Wheatley's going to be a beast. So I mean,
dude, here's the thing: Jim Knowles is a statement hire, like Matt said. And I think if you're a defensive player, that doesn't mean he's going to recruit. He doesn't have to recruit Jim Knowles, but people are definitely going to come here because he's here now. So that's just a fact of it. I think people are going to come here now because he's here. You just won a national title, man.
We have him for 3 years at least. Like, it's a 3-year contract. So.
But look how much younger and hipper and forward thinking our support staff is now than 5-6 years ago, right? With Deion Barnes, with Jordan Lucas, with Dan Connor, with Poindexter. Like, we've gotten younger and we've gotten more aggressive and energetic
and they're all alumni. All of them.
Exactly. NFL guys, right? NFL guys. There's no more Jay Paterno. There's no McQueary coaching the receivers. There's no real – it's not across the board where the guys who are coaching that unit haven't played at the NFL or played at a very high level or have coached at a very high level and have come back. Across the board, like, our staff could probably still play.
Brandon, I know it took 3 years for him to implement his system there, but Ohio State was worse off defensively than Penn State is right now. So it's not going to take 3 years for Penn State's defense to be good. It's going to be good regardless. It's Penn State. The program prides itself on very good defense, and it's going to happen year after year, no matter what system you're implementing. But yeah, it's going to be better in a year or two, probably. But you also need veteran players to step up, and this is the year where we have more veteran players. So we'll see.
Now the other question mark is linebacker. I mean, Tony Rojas, he had an okay year last year. I think he'd make a little bit more plays, but yeah, he was banged up.
Yeah.
Very surprised Kobe King left for the NFL. Just the type of linebacker linebacker position he plays and his style. You know, those inside backers. I'm worried he goes late third or fourth or maybe fifth.
Yeah. Well, guess who's choosing linebackers now? Dan Connor.
Yeah, but that's a lot of tackles to replace too.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an area of
portal.
Yeah.
Have to.
Yeah, you can you can get linebackers in the portal.
Overall, what's this hire mean to you guys? It's a statement.
It's a statement.
And what's it mean going forward?
It means that, like this, it's not just the Jim Knowles hire. I mean, listen, it started with the $700 million renovation in Beaver Stadium when those like blueprints came out and people are like, oh shit, like, are they really doing this? And that was really like kind of before the season, right? Before we actually made the playoffs and got that far, right? Where I think a lot of people around college football are like, is Penn State really that serious? Like they're making that type of commitment. They haven't made the college football playoff. They didn't win a national championship. Like a lot of people scoffed at the investment the school was making, even people on the board of trustees. But soon as that ball started getting rolling, right? And this goes back to the whole point about momentum. Then all of a sudden we make the playoffs, right? Now we're in the Final Four. Now we can taste it. Now we're one bonehead play away from playing the national championship game. Okay. Now here comes the donors. Now you're hearing every other couple weeks, right? This person gave $3 million and $5 million and $6 million, right? You see those things on Go PSU Sports, thanks to this family, that family. And it's not going to stop, right? It's like, soon as they start spending and committed, you can't stop, right? Like you are committed. They are committed to football. They're committed to Beaver Stadium, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop now. It's not going to stop in the spring portal window, and it's going to continue through the season and next recruiting cycle, right? If this team goes on and matches the success of last year, they're going to have a top 5 recruiting class next year.
David Johnson said,
it's a game of momentum.
David Johnson said you still can't score enough points.
We'll find out next year. Yeah. And that's where I said, can we score enough? Right now on offense? Maybe not. And that's why I think the important window for us is that transfer portal window in April.
I think this hire means, first of all, it's a statement. They paid him a lot of money. They got probably the best guy they could get, besides like Bill Belichick or, but they got the best guy they could get, and he came here. They gave him a lot of money. So yes, it's a statement. I think it's going to lead to better recruiting for us. I think we're going to get better guys here. We're going to be implementing more money. It's going to make the fans happier. Like, it's a great hire, man. Like, Jim Knowles is a great coach. He just won a national title. Lucky for us, some things went down at Ohio State, and he didn't get along with certain people. Man, it's a huge hire. Like, we're in a great position.
I think that's a bunch of shit. I think that's way overblown, because if he was in that much turmoil or disagreement, we wouldn't have to pay $3.2 million for him, and he wouldn't just leave a team that won.
He wasn't even at the ceremony, man.
I gotta go, guys. Sorry, but
all right.
Good chatting with you guys. Penn State.
Yep. See you, Brett.
Yeah, it's the same sense, Ryan.
Have a good night. Brandon said, agreed, it's going to help recruiting. I'm just not sure how it's going to affect Franklin's ability to win the big game, in the same sense that Ryan can beat Michigan. I'm a Buckeye fan, if you can't tell. No, I couldn't tell, Brandon, but thanks for the comments. Yeah, man, I agree. Like, does it now? I do think it's going to make Franklin win the big game. I do.
There's no more big games, right? There's no more big games, plural, right? There's one big game that needs to be won, and that's the national championship. With the amount of guys that are coming back, with the amount of experience, the experience of the coaching staff, and their commitment, bring in Jim Knowles.
Uh-oh.
How are they going to do in the playoffs? Are they going to win the national championship? You know, it is national championship or bust. That's the way that college football is going. Teams are going to align rosters and take their shot once every 2 or 3 years. Ohio State did it last year. We're doing it this year. And there's going to be another team whose roster lines up nicely, and they're going to do it the following year. It's no longer, I think you could just go for it with the transfer portal. I think it's just hard to compete year in and year out now. You're going to have to take your shots once every couple of years. I don't think you're going to get back-to-back national champions ever again. At all. It's just that it's you can't have free agency for every single player, every single offseason, and just sustain the same level of success. Alabama will never happen again.
So when it comes to winning the big game, Matt, and it being the national title, I mean, you have to beat these good teams to get there. Still going to get that ass beat by Buckeyes. Go Bucks. You guys are clowns. I don't know why you guys talk crap. It makes no sense. Of all fan bases to act like they've been there, like I don't get it, man.
They don't necessarily need to beat Ohio State. They don't need to beat Michigan.
No, they don't.
Right?
I hope this helps push Franklin because of a great Penn State team.
They need to be healthy, going into the playoffs, and to get, for their sake and chances, a favorable path. Right? It doesn't matter if they win or lose at Ohio State. All that matters is they got a favorable path. No one cared that Penn State lost to Ohio State when they were leading in the fourth quarter versus Notre Dame. No one cared about that, right? So these rivalries, Penn State's no longer competing against Michigan and Ohio State. They're competing against themselves for a national championship with the way the playoffs are. And that's it. So,
I mean, they always hand games away, man. Like, not to take any credit away from Ohio State, but we pretty much handed that win to them. Oregon, we got behind. They always hand wins away, man. Notre Dame, we handed them that win. God, it's so frustrating.
Like they say, you lose more. Like a lot of these coaches say, right? You in these big games, you can lose a lot more than you win, right? And we see it a lot. It's not just them. I mean, that's just the way. That's the way football is, man. It's a tough game. It's not like basketball, right? Where there's just 5 guys on the court. There's less variables. There's a lot of variables in football. You can have you could say Omari Evans was the 11th most talented person on the field on that play, right? And he didn't run his route correctly. And the 11th most talented guy in the team wind up potentially.
Well, here's the thing, man. Next year, Emmanuel said next year OSU is going to be struggling, saying it's questionable. I mean, you're Ohio State, so you're going to probably pull some magic out. That's another thing too, man. If we want to look on paper, Ohio State is not going to be the same team they are next year. Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to be good. They are. They're always good. They got to get a new quarterback. PSU needs receivers and a QB coach. And here's another thing, man. The QB coach, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. What's his name again?
Danny O'Brien.
Okay, so what Drew Aller needs is a seasoned QB coach, someone who's literally there, holding his hand, in his ear.
And you know what he needs? What's a wide receiver? Quarterback's best friend is a receiver. He needs a
Bruce Arians or
listen. I mean, listen. Look how much a difference Allen Robinson made for Christian Hackenberg.
All right, so he needs needs receivers.
He just needs a reliable guy where he can go through his reads, and if shit breaks down, I can get it to him. Warren was that this year, but Warren's still a tight end, and just by position is not going to be able to stretch the field like having an Allen Robinson. Now, if this team, as an example, had Allen Robinson over Tyler Warren, I think they go to the national championship game, right? As much as I love Tyler Warren, but you see a receiver on the outside is just going to be able to make certain home run plays and change the dynamic of is going to create more openings in the defense, even than an all-world tight end, just the way the game football is played. So, to me, I don't think it's coaching. These guys spend hours and hours in the film room, in the weight room, studying. It's players, man. It's players. I think Danny O'Brien does fine. I mean, again, this is going to be the third straight Penn State quarterback that is going to get drafted and is going to be on an NFL roster. So I don't think it's a coaching. I don't think it's a program. It's just this is the receivers. And listen, look around college football. Georgia didn't really have receivers this year, right? I mean, how many programs really had 2 NFL caliber receivers this year? Not many. They're hard to find. Like we're not battling something that's like unique to Penn State. It's just those are hard positions to find and hard positions to recruit for. And we've had it. We lost Lambert Smith to the portal last year. I think people thought Fleming would be an upgrade, and his stats didn't prove that. And I think really that was the difference. The difference, like if we had Lambert Smith and not Fleming, we're probably playing in the national championship game. That's my honest opinion. And I think that was the only difference we needed. One extra real, reliable veteran receiver. And that would have been it. So they've recruited. They just had to retain it too. And that's the other part of it. The retention. But, again, this season, like last year, I said last year's season, I came on first week. It comes down to, are they going to win 2 out of those 3 games between Ohio State, USC, and Wisconsin? If they were going to do that, they were going to go to the playoffs and have a pretty good seed. And they did it. That's all their season came down to last year. Now, obviously, the game in Minnesota got a little bit more hairier than people thought, but they wound up winning it. So, to me, this season's going to be made or break in that portal window. That's it. If they want to win a national championship, they have whatever that is, 15, 20, or 30 days to make it happen. And they're probably already looking at it right now in terms of who do we want to identify, who could become available. Because this coaching staff knows we need 1 or 2 other guys if we really want to get over the top and really ensure we do that this year. And that's why I think they're going to go gangbusters.
Brandon said, I think Sane is good, be really good in time. Ryan seems confident. The next OSU QB is on the roster. Drew is extremely talented. He has made some bad decisions, but receiver should be his focus. Yeah. I mean, honestly, your QB is not getting it done. Drew has looked like a liability. Get a receiver from the portal, and PSU will have edge to beat OSU. And I'm a Buckeye fan. Your TBs, tailbacks are good. Yeah, you guys are right. I mean,
that's exactly what I just said.
Yeah, I guess he needs receivers, man. He just needs receivers. We did get 2 guys from the portal, but yeah, like if he had a Jeremiah, here's the thing, man. Like if you took Jeremiah Smith and put him on Penn State, I think Drew Aller is much better shape.
Everyone is. I mean, Jeremiah Smith can make Trent Dilfer look good. You know what I mean?
Trent Dilfer sucked, but yeah, because Emmanuel is a little right there. He is a liability. He looks like a liability. But that doesn't mean he is one. It just means he doesn't have the support.
Listen, any quarterback's a liability if you don't have a dependable receiver, right? And again, it's like he's still protecting the ball. There's not a lot of open windows. Like if you watch the All 22, and I watch them pretty much every week, you can find them on YouTube. A lot of guys put them up. There have been not a lot of times this year where there is much separation with the receivers. And again, outside of Tyler Warren at tight end, there is no one there to stretch that defense, to move those safeties back. The offensive line is going to be dominant, right? This is going to be the best offensive line in the Franklin era. This may be the best offensive line since 94, 95. And they're going to have to win a different way. Again, if they don't get a receiver in the portal. But, I'm telling you, Mark, like, record this, play this first week of May, whenever that portal window is open, they are going to be very active and prepared and ready to execute in the portal. This roster will be a lot better come May. So it's going to change the whole dynamic of this conversation.
Have you heard anything from sources?
Let's just say I'm very confident that this roster will be a lot better come May. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they need to do, and they are preparing, just like a few other teams in college football who feel this could be their year.
So you think that Penn State's going to pay a receiver to come?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's not just going to be a receiver. They're going to get multiple players in that window.
All right.
They're not stopping at paying a defense coordinator $3.2 million. They're not stopping at $700 million or whatever for Beaver Stadium and then going into the portal and saying, hey, we're not going to come up with $1 million to pay a receiver. Think about it.
All right. Yeah. Brandon asked, what do you think? I don't think Drew's a liability. Do you all have any opinions on why Penn State has struggled recruiting receivers? Matt, you kind of already touched on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they necessarily have struggled, right? Because, again, the whole perception of the receivers changed if Parker Washington returned for his senior year, which I think most of us thought he would. He wound up being a 6 or 7 round pick. And the perception of the receivers would have been different if Lambert Smith stayed. And that to me was what did them in, right? They didn't have the same depth at receivers. But if you look at a 6 or 7 year window, you have Chris Godwin, you have Deshaun Hamilton, you have Saeed Blacknell. I mean, you've had KJ Hamler, you've had Jahan Dotson, you've had a lot of quality receivers come through, and I would put that 6 or 7 year run up against any other top 10 in college football. I mean, that's it's a pretty good representation, but again, just bad timing, right? It's just you had everything else, but a reliable number one receiver. And that's where it becomes more frustrating because you had everything else but that. And it's just, bad timing. And listen, you can get away with subpar linebacker play in college football. You can't get away with subpar receiver play, right?
Yeah, I don't know why they've struggled with it, man. I think they're trying to develop the guys within their team, but they just don't. I mean, it has like Dante Cephas, Malik Mega, like those guys were disappointments. I don't know, man. I don't get it. Like, I don't really have an answer personally. They just need to go out and get guys, but I think they've learned, like you said, Matt, and now they're going to go get a big guy.
Well, look at all the other areas they developed: defensive line, defensive tackle, linebackers, secondary. How much better has our secondary development got over the past 6 or 7 years, right? If you'd have asked the Penn State fans 7 years ago, are we like defensive back you? That's not really what we're known for. But look how many guys we've pumped out of there. Terry Smith, like linebacker. Who is our last great linebacker?
Well, Abdul. Well,
defensive end. Parsons, defensive end. Pretty much in the NFL.
Parsons was a linebacker.
Yeah, but still, more of a rush edge guy.
I think Tony Rojas is a great linebacker.
Yeah, but I mean, before him, who was the last linebacker that we put in the NFL?
Well, Brandon Smith, technically, right?
Yeah, but that's it.
And he was
but look how good our defensive ends have been, and our defensive backs. Like you rotate in different position groups we've developed, right? We've developed defensive backs a lot better than linebackers the past 5, 6, 7 years, right? We've developed defensive ends at a record pace. Now look at offensive line. Like, we are really developed. Like, this was a really good year for our offensive line. Next year is going to be even better, right? I mean, look
Zane
at
Durant coming back, Denai, Rojas, all those guys coming back. Jim Knowles' system. Zane Durant could probably be one of the best defensive tackle in college football next year.
I mean, he reminds me a lot of Kevin Givens. I think even better.
I've seen him in person, man. Like, he's a large man. But with Jim Knowles coming in, that's a huge thing for us. I mean, that's a huge hire. Regardless of what our offense does, I think that pretty much solidifies us as, like, we're
but
a
that's
legit
only
contender.
going to matter unless we hit 1 or 2 receivers in the portal, Mark. I
hear you, Matt, about the receivers getting one. I don't know if we will. Like, I have no confidence.
Well, no, they will. They will. They will.
Like, who are they going to get?
They're going to get someone that we are going to be very happy with and is going to be an upgrade.
So, again, like, you've heard
everything
this.
I know. Everything I know, I would be absolutely shocked.
Well,
they don't walk away with a legitimate upgrade at receiver.
All right,
because they're not stupid.
Yeah. And like, Matt, you know everybody
thinking about entering the portal are not stupid as well. Like, they don't know, like, this would be one of the best destinations to compete for a national championship, to play with the quarterback and to play with the running back in this offensive line and be that last piece.
So everyone, Matt, obviously. You know everybody. You know LeVar, Justin King,
I don't know LeVar. I don't know LeVar Arrington.
Well, you've been around him more than most people, so
I'm a fanboy. I don't know anyone personally, but I'm a fanboy.
And he recognizes you. I know that. But so with everyone that all your sources, like, we're gonna get someone. Like, it's like a guarantee, pretty much.
I would be absolutely shocked if we do not walk away this spring portal window with a legitimate receiver.
All right.
Brandon just makes too much sense for all parties. For all parties. For Penn State. For the receiver.
Yeah, they just lost
a national championship. And the money that I'm telling you right now would be there.
I mean, they just lost their 2 starting receivers, so they're going to have to. I mean, I know they got some replacements. They got Liam, they got Caden, but Brandon said makes sense with all the guys y'all have coming back. Y'all have one of the best chances to replicate what the Buckeyes did last year and what Michigan did the year prior. Yeah, thank you guys for the positive comments. Hey, like I said, I don't mean all of you, but Ohio State fans are the most delusional fan base in college football. Not all of you are a part of that, but I appreciate your kind words. I have all respect in the world for Ohio State, so I'm a Ohio State. I respect Ohio State for sure. So you guys talk crap to us. I mean,
Michigan won it with basically Roman Wilson as really their only real big option at receiver. We're going to need someone, right?
All right.
And someone's also going to need us. That's the difference, right? Like, Penn State as a destination for a transfer portal receiver is a lot more attractive this year than last year. Not only the quality of the team, but our finances are in better order.
Because the defensive coordinator does directly affect the offense. So that's another huge aspect. If you're a receiver, you're like, all right, they're good on defense. We got to produce on offense. We got to score some damn points. We got to actually produce with this freak of a quarterback that we have.
But remember, we still landed receivers every single portal cycle, right? Yeah. Like, we got the kid from Florida State. We got 2 kids last year. We got Cephas the year before that. Like, they're not, they got two good guys here. Like, they're not sitting on their hands. Like, they've accepted this and they understand this is part of the roster building process. But
all right, so man, I don't even know what to think, in the sense that I'm excited about Jim Knowles and everything. But the receiver room, like the offense,
like Jim Knowles doesn't excite me in the sense that, like, it like it brings us a little closer to a national championship, right? I'm more excited with the amount of money that was spent than I am about Jim Knowles, because that signals to me we are not messing around and we are going for it this year. Ignore the nut jobs of all like Ohio State went for it last year. Their roster was not set up to go for it this year. They
clearly
went
it works.
Clearly
going after like the big guys, the big bucks works because they had a $20 million roster. Someone said they didn't have the most expensive roster. I thought they did. But but
they can't do that every year, right? Because the teams aren't set up, like they're not set up to win a national championship next year. Right.
Like so JTT, Jack Sawyer, those guys were like homegrown Ohio State kids. Caleb Downs was not. Jeremiah Smith will be a homegrown Ohio State kid. Marvin Harrison was. Amika was a homegrown Ohio State kid. Will Howard was not. Travion Henderson was a homegrown Ohio State kid. Quinshawn was not. So, like, they did everything that they could last year to get guys, and this year we're gonna have to do that, man. Like, they have to. If they don't, and you're saying they will, I'll believe it when I see it. But yeah, man. I mean, the reason I say Ohio State fans are delusional is because you guys got Urban Meyer, and you guys don't know how lucky you are that you got him. He was supposed to come to Penn State, but the scandal happened. Like, you guys could literally be in our position right now if you didn't get Urban Meyer. Ryan Day is an Urban Meyer disciple, so like, like Ohio State fans just they don't. Yeah, I know Urban Meyer's an Ohio guy, but we were fourth in spending behind Texas, Oregon, and Notre Dame, which is crazy because they beat Oregon, they beat Texas, and they beat Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, man, all the money in the world isn't going to help them, but yeah. So you guys keep the comments coming. Matt, I'm going to go over some storylines here. Do you mind?
Go ahead.
All right. So first of all, I was talking about the some of the comments. Hold on. And like the one dude that was saying about insulting me, basically, like Hendo lives. He's got a picture of him like kissing his daughter. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you talking crap on social media when you got a picture of your daughter on there? But anyway, so yeah. But obviously we talked about Jim Knowles and, you know, his freakish ability to obviously scheme up a different defense of 4-2-5. So, you know, that's it's a huge hire, man. It's just a phenomenal hire by Penn State. All right. So some of the storylines that I wanted to bring up, Brett and I are constantly sending each other stuff, but so what we got here is teams with 10+ losses in the past. Hold on. All right. So 10+ loss seasons. Last time each Power 4 team had a 10+ loss season, I don't think we've ever had one. I guess we're not even on there. Never. Yeah, Penn State's never had one. So that's interesting. Penn State's never had a 10-loss season.
Came close.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm just gonna go.
At every game they were 3-8. So trust me, they were close. I saw it.
Landon Tangwell put a guy to bed. He was like, "What happened to you, Landon? Like, what have you been doing?" And he just smoked the guy in the comment. Andrew Olish, he is now a 5-star, which is interesting. Because he's another guy that we've gotten. Olish is now a 5-star guy. Center Valley, PA. Notre Dame fan last night commented that they just got the #1 PA kid. I'm like, no, you didn't. I don't know what he was talking about. The only thing I could see was an O lineman, and he wasn't top in the state. Wasn't even close. I'll keep going through here, Matt. Year of the Beef, a record 9 offensive linemen finished as 5 stars in 2025, top 247. One of ours is Malachi Goodman, 6'5", 320, 5-star guy. Brett's the recruiter guy, but let me see here. Yeah, Malachi Goodman, he had a good game in the. So after standout senior season, strong performance at the Navy All-American Bowl, Penn State offensive line commit Malachi Goodman has capped off his recruitment with a 5-star ranking. Good for you. I'm just going to keep going through this. Another thing that I saw, let's see here. Oh, this is all the spending. So Penn State's annual operating revenue, June. Football is definitely at a profit. Only football and men's basketball are profitable. All the other ones are not. Wrestling isn't. That's crazy. Women's volleyball isn't.
That's most schools, though. I mean, that's
yeah.
that's
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you know what? Most fans, Mark, they didn't realize how much money it cost.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you got coaches, you got insurance, you got doctors, you got facilities, you got, I mean, all your over.
Well, they just lost a lawsuit too to a doctor.
Well, it's still going to be appealed. I don't know if they're going to actually win that. I mean, that to me is still very much up in the air for those who have been following it.
Yeah, Brett Bielema, he goes after Jim Harbaugh. Dude, I like Michigan, man. I like Jim Harbaugh. I like their new coach Sharon Moore. I like Michigan, man. I think the cheating is something every team does. They just did it better.
No.
All right.
No.
Give me your thoughts, Matt.
No.
Give me your thoughts.
No, bro. No.
Netflix is undefeated.
My lives all last year, and listen, this
I get all my news from Netflix, Matt. It's undefeated. I'm being sarcastic.
This is going to end with a bigger punishment than they ever thought. Right?
So they're cooked, huh?
They're cooked, and here
did they cheat?
No question.
So no other team is doing it.
No, not like that. Not like that. I mean, listen, I love the guy's passion, right? You know, if I can do that to help Penn State football, right? I'd do anything for them to win. But all kidding aside, Mark, like, you got to remember, like, here's the part that dismissed Jim Harbaugh or Michigan's credibility regarding that. This is a quote unquote, a guy by Michigan was labeled as a low-level staffer, right? That I think that was almost the exact phrase, a low-level staffer or analyst, correct?
He's like an analyst. That's it.
Okay. Where were our analysts on game day?
Well, they're on the sidelines now.
But where were they last year?
They weren't on the sidelines.
They weren't. Did you ever see any analyst sitting right next to Manny Diaz and literally communicating to him consistently what to do, which then provoked Manny Diaz to change a play call or call something in? Or did you just see Manny Diaz call in the defense?
At a rival's sideline too.
Yeah, have you ever seen that? In the biggest game of the year.
No, I haven't seen it with my eyes, but I'm sure it's
Jim Harbaugh, I like him as a coach. Control, you know, in that control freak mentality. Here's the thing.
Brandon, thanks for the comments.
Here's the thing. So, how in the world would a analyst make his way all the way to the sidelines in the biggest game of the year and be looked at by your second in command defensive coordinator on what to do, unless what he was telling him what to do was vetted out by the head coach, by the staff? Oh, how do you, like, soon as he starts saying, like, hey, when they do this, this happens. At a certain point, the coaches are going to be like, man, you're really fucking good at your job. How the hell did you figure that out? Because we can't.
Yeah.
They're going to ask questions. This shit's too good. This is like the Bernie Madoff returns, right? Like, how'd you do that? You know, there is a quality assurance process that would happen between him being an analyst to providing his information, to his information being used, and then his information being used and audibled in real time on the sidelines. What he was providing was extremely valuable, or he wouldn't be there.
But where's the cheating part?
The cheating part is the degree of information of knowing those signs, recording them, breaking them down, right? Being on Central Michigan sidelines. That's bizarre. You're going to a next level. Why are you buying all these tickets and sending out subcontractors to record this information? This was very well organized. The guy had a military background. Give him credit for the execution. It was very strategic. Ethical is a different conversation, but that's a different level, Mark. That's a different level of cheating, right? The fact that the Big Ten suspended Jim Harbaugh for the Penn State and Ohio State game tells you something, right? In the middle of the season, they didn't want to kill the brand, but they had to do something, right? And so there had to be a totality of substantial evidence to suspend him for the Penn State and the Ohio State game in a season you're undefeated. And to me, that was just the tip of the iceberg. He knew what was going on. Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. He was a coach's team to the playoffs, to the Super Bowl. He would not allow that any information to influence his game plan unless he knew it was very good and reliable. And at a certain point, someone had to say what was going on here.
So the way Connor Stallions got the information was illegal?
100%. I mean, dude,
what's the illegal part?
He's buying tickets. He's paying subcontractors to record this information, right, on the sidelines, buying tickets that are hundreds of thousands of dollars to record those signals and then come back and then dissect them.
So that was, first of all, there's rules and then there's laws. So was it against the law or the rules?
But the NCAA bylaws does not allow that type of sign stealing. Again, it's one thing if you look over during the game and break it down or try to get a couple signals, but to go to the length and the extent that he did to keep it private, right? Then why wouldn't every team just sit there with the cameraman and record the other team's signals in broad daylight all day?
And Jim Harbaugh's defense, I don't know if he knew how he was getting that information.
Dude.
But you're saying he did.
The way he gathered it's not the way he gathered the information, it was against NCAA bylaws. Jim Harbaugh didn't get suspended for 3 games, Penn State and Ohio State and another, if it wasn't against the bylaws.
All right, so
that was so egregious.
Let's use an example here because we're Penn State fans, and all right, so we get a lot of comments, Sandusky, Joe New, all this bullshit. I always block them because that's just dumb. Like I'm not allowing that on this channel anywhere. When they say Joe New, did he know? I guess what people are saying is say Joe knew, but he reported it, right? So Joe reported it. But Harbaugh knew and didn't report it.
Hold on. You're dealing with apples and oranges. You're dealing with like generational differences there. It's a bad analogy. So I would leave that out. And listen, that it's not a clean analogy. in the sense that it's not really apples and apples. There's so many other dynamics with the Joe and Sandusky thing compared to just the Michigan. The bottom line is this, okay? Jim Harbaugh would not have a low-level assistant like sitting next to and communicating with his coordinators in terms of what was he doing. Okay, how did he earn your trust where he's on the sidelines of the Ohio State game tipping you off on what audibles to call or not? It's just odd, man. It's just odd. You think James Franklin would ask, hey, why is one of our grad assistants next to Manny Diaz, like, helping him? And, like,
so are
telling
people going
him
to get jail time or anything?
How did that happen? Like, take me through that. It's such a bizarre thing.
Are people getting jail time?
No, people aren't going to get jail time. I don't think it's not. I'm not aware of any criminality, but it's against NCAA rules, and that's why Jim Harbaugh was suspended. And why did Sharon Moore delete dozens and dozens of tweets? Excuse me, dozens and dozens of text messages.
So the difference is, obviously, we
Why
know
did he do
Joe.
that, Mark?
Obviously,
Why did
and I.
Sharon Moore delete? I think it was like 45 or 50 text messages. Why?
Yeah. So
Why?
obviously, you and I and real Penn State fans know Joe did what he had to do. So Joe reported the crime. Jim Harbaugh, the crime in this case, was that there was cheating going on, and he went along with it and didn't report it and just acted like, oh, I wonder where this information's coming from. So that's the rule breaking.
Everyone who is on a college football head coach's staff is interviewed and approved by that head coach.
Approved.
That head coach knew his background. That head coach had to have, at least from a quality control perspective, what's going on, what's the game plan, how are we driving it. You think Jim Harbaugh never walked into defensive meeting rooms?
Well, why is there no asterisk next to their national title yet?
It's going to take time. I consider they cheated flat out. And we see one or two plays makes or breaks a game. They miraculously are starting to beat Ohio State, right? Multiple years in a row.
All right. So Netflix obviously is not the best source, obviously.
Okay, I agree.
Like there's a lot of stuff on there that I know is just total BS. Because they're, not to get political, but they're very liberal, so it's gonna go that way. But like they basically, Connor Stallion said, I did this, I just did it better than everyone else.
But what he did was against the bylaws.
But they don't say that in that. You know what I mean?
Okay, but we all know that.
I mean, but as big as Netflix is, that's a pretty heinous thing to be like, oh, like this guy broke these rules, but he's just explaining how it wasn't a rule. He just did it better.
It was a rule because Jim Harbaugh got suspended for 3 games. It was a rule. You cannot record signals that way. And why are you on the sidelines of the Central Michigan? It's bizarre.
So not everyone does it then.
Not like that. I mean, listen, in-game sign stealing happens. And you heard that from coaches. In-game sign stealing, if you can pull it off, happens, right? That's not against the bylaws. Having contractors go out and paid to sit in behind the benches and get guest passes to be on the sidelines of other teams that you're not employed by. I mean, dude, it's bizarre. Like the whole ticketing thing, like, okay, he just so happened to have tickets right behind the bench in line with, I mean, listen, a guy had a military background. He used it, but there is a reason this, like, they weren't sitting there in broad daylight recording the information they were getting. Right.
All right. So
there's a reason. Because it wasn't legal, and he knew that. Or he could have just sat there, and he didn't have to buy thousands of dollars worth of tickets, thousands of dollars worth of flights, have a bunch of contractors go out and record and get this information all across the country, week in and week out for years. There was value in it. They went to very lengthy means to collect this. And they wouldn't have done that. And they wouldn't have spent the time, money, and they wouldn't have done it in a covert way if it didn't amount to something significant, Mark.
All right, so we're on the same page here. So explain to me the difference. Obviously, what happened at Penn State was a heinous crime. This is cheating.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference there, obviously. But what's the difference between Joe and Jim Harbaugh? Explain that to me. The difference between these two things.
To me, they're night and day for a multitude of reasons, right? Like one is just like sports, and the other one you're dealing with sports. You're dealing with cultural norms at the times. You're dealing with like a whole different sensitive subject matter there, right? So like I can't even really, to me, they're not comparable because the context of what we're trying to compare is like night and day. One again is about just them cheating, and the other one has a ton of nuanced legalities and a ton of nuanced social norms, right? Like if you let's just put the
Joe reported the crime.
Let's put to me, like, I don't even want to mix these conversations, right? So let's put the Harbaugh thing away. That's done. There's no question to me. The lengths they got that information, it had to be valuable. They spent thousands of dollars, a ton of time, a ton of money. He's not on there. He was suspended. Obviously, something done wasn't right. Right. It was beyond what other teams are doing.
And
now,
it happened.
If you want to tell me like Jim Harbaugh may not have known the lengths they were going to, right, to do it, I would say like that's not totally crazy. But for him not to be like, where is all this miraculous information coming from?
Looking
like,
into it. Yeah.
Why are we in these defenses at such a better rate this year than last year? Like there must have been enough tea leaves there from someone who's as smart and experienced of him to just be like, what, like just what's going on, right? Like, where's this coming from?
He didn't report the crime, but Joe did. That's the difference between the two.
I mean, dude, there's so many. There's so many complicated things. I mean, if you want to touch on the controversy from 2011, I mean, you could go on for a long time, and there could be a lot of different people to blame, right? And hindsight is always 2020. And listen, I think my feelings on the situation, we would have to be here for about a week to really unpack everything that happened, to be fair to all parties, step by step by step.
Uh-huh. We can move on.
No, I mean, listen, what I would say is this. I think that a lot of people drop the ball between our administration, the state police. I think at that time, for someone of his age growing up in that time, I think it'd be reasonable to think like, did he really have like a full context of like what was going on? I don't know. I don't know. There, unfortunately, he's not here. And it's a tough situation. It's a tough situation. I don't think there's everyone like there's no winners and losers, right? Like it's tough. It's a tough. And there's been a lot of legalities, right? Like, some people say, hey, he reported to his boss. The state police said he reported to his boss. He did his thing. He shouldn't then start doing the investigation to himself. some people will say he should have kept going on. I don't know what he was told by Curley or Schultz privately, right? Because remember, he really didn't mess with email, right?
It came down to one sentence. Coach and I think this. There's no proof that even happened. That Joe just said, "Oh, the coach and I think this."
Yeah,
There's
no
proof of that.
We don't know, and that's why I said it's just it's a complicated subject. And there's been reports out there that not everyone who was involved, has been fully truthful the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
Even McQuarrie, that whole story, I don't think even was true what he said. But, all right, Matt, can you hear this? Can you hear the audio?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
Come on.
You can't hear it. Kevin Browning. Can you hear the audio?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of weight. He's a kid from Harrisburg, right?
Yeah. You guys in the chat, can you guys hear the audio? I'm trying to figure out the audio, man. I can't play video audio on StreamYard. I can't figure it out. I don't know why. It's crazy. But could you hear the audio or no?
No, I see that. That's a massive amount of weight for a high school kid.
All right, so that is, let me do the math
and his
here.
eyes look like the size of my waist.
All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 585 plus, so that's about 600 pounds that he's got on his back there. If I'm looking at these, those look like 5s or 10s. So that's over 600 pounds. 4 reps, I think. Kevin Brown. He jumped out of a wall. Had Martin do that. All right, so listen, I've never had this amount of weight on my back before. My max squat was like 400 pounds. This is a lot of weight, okay? Now, being someone who's a bodybuilder, has always performed the correct way. I was taught the right way by my lifting coach, Tim Young, who was Quentin Wright's lifting coach, Penn State wrestler, on and on and on it goes. Bald Eagle Wrestling was the Beast of the East champion. They were the national champions in 99. They lifted under Tim Young. Long story short, I know good form. All right. This kid is down here. His chest is forward. This is a lot of weight. All right. So I've never done this weight, but when you're coming up, if it plays, you need to drive your chest up. All right. So his back is kind of in a vulnerable position.
Yeah, it looks that way.
All right. Now, again, this is a lot of weight, but he needs to drive that chest up more. Here, look at this. Look at where his spine is. He got 600 pounds on his back. And his back is bending. All right. All of that weight is going to his lower back. That's not good. Now, is this good form? Yeah, it's pretty damn good, but he needs to drive that chest up more, which is what I said about. But again, I'll try to get the audio figured out. I don't know what's going on, but I just wanted to point that out. 600-pound squat. I'm going to keep going through these storylines here. 2025's 10 most explosive offenses. Penn State is third. I don't know how. I guess Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers. I think he's gone either way. I think he's going to transfer. Could go to Michigan. Could go to Ohio State. I hope he goes to Michigan. But we're third in that list there, according to CBS 247.
What was that for? Who?
What?
Oh, rankings.
Most explosive offenses going into 2025. We're third. I don't know how Ohio State's won. I guess Jeremiah Smith. Their running backs. Travion Henderson, is he coming back?
I think so. I think he's a senior. I thought he was a senior.
What about Quinshawn?
He announced he's gone.
All right, so I get it, but they shouldn't be number one. I don't think. Top 50 games of 2024. Penn State was number 4. Notre Dame. I don't think that was number 4, but we did lose. So, and then these are predictions for next year.
Sounds about
Playoff, we're predicted
That's
to
about right.
to beat Georgia,
I don't know how Boise State's there. Here, go back. That was pretty
and that
fun.
was before I believe that was before the Jim Knowles hire, right? I don't know. No, maybe not.
I mean, we should be right there. I'm not saying we're going to necessarily win it 100%, but there's no reason we should not be one of the 4 best teams in college football at the end of the year. Again, barring no injuries and barring a successful spring portal, we should be there.
All right, and I wanted to play this. Travis Hunter nearly freaking blows his ACLs out celebrating. Look at his knee, man. Hold on, look at his knee here.
Where is that?
This is Travis Hunter celebrating at a high school a high school bowl game or something like that. It was like a all-star game, I think. The Polynesian Bowl. I wish you could slow it down.
Was that in Hawaii, right? I think that's in Maui.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just pause it, I guess. Dude, his knee like bends back.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, listen.
Dude, his knee, like, it goes the opposite way. Look. I think
it's pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, he was probably about another inch or 2 away from.
He's got slides on his feet. Okay. Now I think a lot of these players today, man, are prima donnas. Like Travis Hunter, it just pisses me off. It's even when I played, man, 15 years ago. It's a lot of prima donnas out here. But this dude is celebrating, and he freaking almost tears his ACLs. His knee bends the wrong way. Like, he's so lucky.
Martin Gramatica,
Huh?
for the. I mean, it happened. Remember Martin Gramatica? He was a kicker for the Kansas State, and then he jumped and he blew out his ACL. I think his brother.
The Buccaneers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, man. I mean, listen, freak accidents happen. They're big athletes, but hell of a player and deserves the Heisman Trophy, in my estimation.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely like the most explosive player, entertaining player. Didn't play out for his team, but and then you got this story. So Penn State waitress, which it's not a Penn State waitress. Like we don't have waitresses at Penn State, but a girl who went to Penn State supposedly, I don't know if that's true or not, but she was a waitress, and she said how he's a great tipper and a great guy. Now, I wanted to touch on this story because. All right. I can tell you where this is at. Now, here's the thing. I saw this on ESPN, and they said, oh, Saquon Barkley is a certified good guy. It's like, first of all, I guarantee you they did no background research on this to know that this is even a true story or that it's true that he's a good guy, which he is, but they just threw it up. And I'm thinking, like, and I asked Brett, I'm like, how did they know this is true? This is just some random girl. Now, I'll say this, okay? I know this is true. I don't know who the girl is. I don't think I knew her. But I'll say this about this story, how he would get a corner in the back of the bar, and he would sit back there. People would send him drinks, and he would always tip the waitress because she'd bring him all the drinks, even though he didn't drink any of the drinks. I know what he drank, and it wasn't shots and tequila and all that. I'll tell you this is true because, one, it was at the Den, okay? That corner that he would sit in, I was there too, because my friend that I was with also knew the owner, great guy of the Den. I won't say his name, but we knew the owner, very nice guy. We always sat in the corner, and it was like a VIP spot, if you will. It was away from the crowd. You were back there, you were right next to the bar. If you needed a drink, they just brought it to you. I know some of the bartenders that were there. I was friends with them. So one of them was actually dating a player at the time. I would sit back there in that corner at this bar. It was at the Den, and I was next to him many, many times. Saquon. Dude, this guy was the nicest guy. He was very humble. You would never, ever, ever know that he was as good as he was based off the way he conducted himself. He was such a nice guy. People would get him drinks, they'd bring him back, and I know this again because I was right next to him multiple times. Multiple occasions I was in that corner with him. I did not know Saquon personally very well. I didn't really talk to him that much. He was usually there talking to other people, and I was there with my friends. But yeah, it's 100% true, man. Like, I don't have the videos anymore, but I had countless videos of him in the background next to me. He would drink, I think it was vodka Sprites, or it was always clear what he was drinking. And you have one of those little stirring straws in the drink, and he would drink it. He always drank clear stuff. I don't think I ever saw him drink the dark liquor, which is good because most athletes shouldn't be drinking dark liquor because it's worse for you, like whiskey and all that stuff. But he always had a clear drink. I think he only drank one thing, but I just wanted to say I can confirm this is true because I was right there with him. So, yeah, very nice guy. I mean, he's just very humble. I knew his now wife, and he has kids and everything. But yeah, man, he great guy, very humble. Like, never had a big head, never acted like he was better than people. And we're talking about, man, the Earl Campbell, Barry Sanders of college football. I mean, he was that guy. So yeah, Saquon couldn't be a better guy, man. He's such a nice, humble guy. Didn't really know all the details of his kind of like relationship with his girlfriend at the time and all that, but you know, they had some children, and Saquon, he could have gotten with anybody on campus, female wise. But you know, he ended up with Anna is her name, and now they're living their life, and good for them. But yeah, man, anytime I was around him, my one friend actually kind of looked like him. You know how Saquon has the nice smile. My friend had that too, and there's this one video that my friend got, where he was like right next to him, like smiling. It was funny, but I don't know if he'd still have it. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because I can't confirm it's true. I don't know how they confirmed it's true. Again, I don't even know who this bartender was. I don't remember her. And I knew most of them there. So, but yeah, just he was always a very nice guy. You talk to him. I'd see him on campus. I knew him enough that when he saw me, he would say, "What's up?" You know, because I saw him enough that, same with Trace McSorley, Jason Kabinda, just.
It's a fun part of college football, right?
Great character guys, man. And I knew guys that dated players. I knew girls that dated players. One of them was dating Deshaun Hamilton at the time. I was around him a few times. We had mutual acquaintances and stuff. So yeah, just it's a good story to see, man, because it is true that he's just a great guy, like a good character guy. I hope he wins the Super Bowl. The only reason I want the Eagles to win is because Saquon's on the team. Otherwise, I don't give a
no. I think every
crap.
Penn State fan, even if you're a Steelers fan, you got to be rooting for Saquon. If you're a Penn State fan,
Hunter Norzad's on the Chiefs. I think
Hunter Norzad ain't moving recruiting. You know, Saquon Barkley winning the Super Bowl with the Eagles moves the recruiting needle, moves the excitement.
Is Tariq exactly? Is Tariq Castro-Fields on the Chiefs or the Eagles?
I think he's on the Eagles. Yeah, he's on the Eagles.
So they got Jahan Dotson, Saquon, and Tariq. Hunter Norzad's on the Chiefs.
Dotson's
there's also been this freaking graphic where Penn State said it's a graphic every year, and people are making fun of it.
It's not. It's a true fact. They've played in every Super Bowl.
Well, Texas Tech said this is how you should do it. They listed all the Super Bowls. It's like, shut up, Texas Tech. But at the bottom in real fine print, it says except 5 Super Bowls. So is what the graphic says. But yeah, it's you know, it's just one of those things where Penn State has been, I think it says except 5 or something like that.
They think about a player in everyone. I thought it was everyone. That's what it said. Okay, I'll be right down. I gotta wrap up, man. The wife is calling for help with the kids. Needs a little, relief out of the bullpen, Mark. I don't know. You know what that means.
You gotta get in there, man.
Once in a while. You know, wife's like, talking college football for 2 hours on a Friday. You gotta come help.
Well, here's another thing too, man. I wish he would have played that last game to get the rushing title. And I hope he gets the MVP. He deserves it. He should get the MVP, man.
He's got the MVP. They're going to be.
I don't think he will. I think it's either going to be Lamar or Josh Allen, but
he's got both.
In my book, Saquon's the MVP. So
no question.
NFL MVP. That's pretty crazy, man. That's a crazy
award
to have. It's a crazy stat to have. I can't find
for running back now. You know, the NFL MVP is a lot harder to win for a running back than the Heisman Trophy is for running back.
Yeah, he's a freak, man. He is a freak. But with the torn ACL. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for the comments. We missed some of you guys that are normally on, like Illicit and Vance and Omid and Cost 22 and Lambda. But I'll be live tonight with Jared for Steelers. I'll be live tomorrow for a Super Bowl pregame show with Anthony Howard of Free Dog Sports, and the content's going to keep coming. So, Matt, thank you for coming on. Come on more often, man. I wish you the best, and I'm glad you're back in Jersey, or at least on the same time.
Yeah, that was rough. That was rough. It was fun. Listen, man, telling you, sleep easy. The portal is going to be very, very good to us.
All right.
Come spring.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Tune in tonight and tomorrow. Have a good night.
Thanks, Mark.